We are with Alhaji Usainu Dabo, leader of the United Democratic Party, the main opposition in the Gambia. Next year is election time in this country, and he's here to talk to us about some of the strategies of the UDP to make sure that this time round victory goes their way. You've just come back from a Europe-wide tour. 2025 seems to have been a very good year for the UDP internationally. You had your, was it a congress in Barcelona? You had a very successful fundraising in the United States, and you've just come back from a similar thing in Europe. How do you plan to harness this international UDP energy going into 2020?
Well, that's one of issues I had to discuss with our diaspora membership. A great majority of them are not registered, and this is because voting to the Gambian diaspora. But nonetheless, I have convinced quite a number of them to come back home in April, between April and May, to take the opportunity to register during this supplementary registration exercise. Not only that, but also at election time, we're getting a huge number of them to come and manage our polling stations. You know, an 18-year-old chap who just left grade 12, you can intimidate him. But not people who have lived in Europe for decades.
Is that what happened in the past? They were using 18-year-old chaps out of school?
Yes, because the people, the way, we really did not choose, the right caliber of people in many cases. But that this time around.
Was that deliberate, or was it just difficulty in finding the right sort of people to man these stations?
It's not difficult. You have to get young people involved in managing the affairs of the party, and this includes managing elections. I mean, serving as polling agents, we didn't think that was needed an extraordinary skill. Educated, you can read figures, and you are a party loyalist. Yeah? So I think that those were sufficient. But then we later discovered that maybe we ought not to have used those young people. We ought to have used more elderly persons, people whose determination could be stronger. Maybe that's what we should have done. So the diaspora are coming in big numbers, particularly to the critical polling stations. We're putting them at the critical polling stations.
Which would these be?
Well, we will not the IEC know that now.
Combo South, definitely.
Of course, Combo South. Of course. Well, Combo South. Certainly, I think we've sealed Combo South. So I'm looking beyond. Okay. I'm looking beyond URR and those places. That's where I'm looking to. But
where the ruling party seems to have a stronghold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think that there is where most of the foul play takes
place?
Well,
I'm not saying foul play, but I say that we are going to make sure that we have good agents, because the agents, the polling agents, they metamorphose into counting agents at the end of the at the end of the ballot.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that the polling agents are people who are really very vigilant, who will not be bamboozled by anybody. We are going to make sure that we do have that.
When we talk about diaspora Gambians, what comes to mind immediately is the money they send us, remittance. Talk about diaspora, and what comes to mind immediately is remittance. What economic or policy roles do you envision for Gambians abroad? You've just come back from interacting with them. Quite apart from just wanting their money, what other roles do you see for them? You just spoke about, for instance, them coming and helping in making sure that the integrity of our election is guaranteed.
You see, Peter, I have always thought that, the potentials that Gambians have is not being properly utilized. And of course, maybe there's some, I wouldn't say lethargy, but maybe indifference. Indifference, not because they do not like this country, indifference because the situation in the country is such that they say, but do I have to go and invest in my country? I would rather go to Senegal because of the condition, the governance situation in our country. But this we are changing, and this we must change. For me, Gambians abroad, I think they should now put themselves in a position where they will control the economy of this country.
How will you
Mega bank, for instance, Mega bank, could have got Gambians together in a consortium and buy that bank, and will be wholly, fully Gambian owned. Everything in it will be Gambian. Profits remain in the Gambia here, and those profits, the company that owns Mega Bank can apply those profits into other areas, develop agriculture, in road infrastructure. Gentleman, I wouldn't name him. Don't want to embarrass him. But when I was foreign minister, a gentleman came with a proposal for Gambia's infrastructural development. He's a civil engineer, a reputable civil engineer. And what he proposed, and I think which makes a lot of sense, float shares for Gambians to buy, to raise almost $500 million, I think $500 million or $5 million, so that you can use those funds for infrastructural development. And I think such an idea can still be pursued. Get Gambians to create that company, get Gambians to invest in it. Gambians abroad have good, you have good civil engineers abroad.
Okay, so how will your government make it easier for them to either return home or invest in the country?
We'll create the facilities to them, and we'll engage in a dialogue.
What is lacking now in terms of facilities? What is impeding or hindering the return of Gambians, the investment of Gambians in the diaspora, in the economy?
One, they have lost faith in their government, because the government they thought they would have, they have been disappointed. They do not have that government, because they thought they would have government that is corrupt-free. They think they would have a government that is nationalistic. They thought they would have a government that would really treat the Gambian diaspora as the resident Gambians. No difference. And they will give them all opportunities. After all, what it calls for, for the first, I thought, when we had the first meeting, when we met with the diaspora, it was not just going to be political talk. There should also have been engagements for Gambians to come and invest in the country. I know there are a lot of Gambians who want to do so. Now, this road construction, don't we have good Gambian civil engineers abroad? After all, give them the contract, and they will start build themselves up in terms of equipment. Maybe for the first one or two contracts, they may hire equipment. But for subsequent one, they would have been put in a position when they can really buy this equipment on their own, and give them the contract to build our battle-hardened highway, to build our Sokoto-Biaban roads. This is what we should do.
They should have tendered. I mean, government will not just go to them and say, well, Mr. Dabo, I'd like to face tenders were invited. They should have tendered.
Tenders were invited, I agree. Tenders were invited. But then, they would say, I think most are convinced that we'll be really going into motions of really responding to the application, to the invitation to tender. But actually, we will not be awarded the contract, because already the government is already known for its corruption. And I don't think any serious Gambian, the caliber of Gambian that I'm talking about, will never give a dime to anybody because you want a contract. They will never do that. Their integrity, their upbringing.
So it's a question of trust. They just can't trust the government.
It's a question of trust.
Okay.
And I think government ought to have open dialogue with Gambians. We should not just be dependent on remittances. We should make sure that Gambians invest in the economy of this country. You have one or two individuals who have returned home and trying to do something. But some also get discouraged and say, look, mandal the manyibi, you know. And when they say the manyibi, it looks funny because you are going to a country which originally is not your country of origin.
And while we are still on this issue of diaspora and diaspora rights, everybody knows your stand on a new constitution. You feel the Gambia deserves a new constitution. You've promised that it is one thing you will prioritize if you ever come to office. What key changes should we look forward to in a new UDP introduced constitution for the Gambia?
The absolute independence of the public service.
For you, the public service is a big problem.
A bridled executive, a lean government, good diaspora representation at all levels. The law that prohibits Gambians in diaspora from holding ministerial positions, we'll do away with it. We'll do away with the law that says that you must be resident in the Gambia for a period of 5 years for your nomination as president. Why should I? You have a Gambian international civil servant working in the United Nations, and because of the position he holds in that organization, it's not possible for him to be resident in the Gambia for the period that you stipulate. Quite competent, quite patriotic, willing to serve. Why should you prevent him the opportunity of bidding for the highest office in the Gambia? So I think I don't know. I think Mohammed Al-Barak, he was with the atomic energy in Vienna. I mean, when he left, he went to contest for the presidency in Egypt. The very year he left, no prohibitions. Why can't we have someone who is working for any of the international organizations coming back to the Gambia 6 months before elections and wanting to contest? Why should you prevent him from doing that? I don't think that is fair. Okay. We'll also increase the number of seats in the National Assembly so that the diaspora can have not a representation, but representations.
About how many?
Well, that we'll discuss, but then, but okay. Offhead, you want to have representation for the Americas. You want to have representation for Europe, continental Europe. You want to have representation for United Kingdom, for Asia and the Middle East, for Africa. You need to have that because those representing Africa, their concerns for the Gambian diaspora in Africa will be different from those representing the Americas.
Sure.
So this is why we need to increase the number of representatives in the National Assembly. And I can tell you, that will add value to the deliberations, the conversations that take place in the National Assembly. Because it is not anybody that we are bringing in. Yeah, the diaspora will vote for very informed persons who seek members of the National Assembly, not because of self-aggrandizement, because they want to be of service to their country. They want to leave something for the generations yet unborn. This is what thing should happen.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about a bridled executive, what powers does President Barrow currently enjoy that Yaya Jammeh previously enjoyed, and even Sadauda Keraba Jawara perhaps, that if you become president, don't want to enjoy? What powers will you curb when you talk about, a bridled executive?
I don't want to enjoy the power of removing the Inspector General of Police at will or the CDS.
You don't want that. You don't want to be able to name your Inspector General of Police and remove them whenever you want.
Whenever. I don't want that.
Okay.
Nor do I want to remove the Auditor General because I don't like him or because he's going to reveal the corrupt nature of my government.
They can come out with any kind of report. It doesn't matter.
But
their position will remain safe.
Their position will remain safe. And that is the type of society. People must be allowed to do their work without fear that an honest job they do will have adverse repercussions on them. That is what we need. And if we do so, we'll have a society that is stable. All these ngiro will not be there. But, when you want to control the country with tight fists, iron fisted, you're creating problems. Not only for the citizen, but for yourself too. Because some people are bound to resist the unwarranted use of power. Honestly, I think the trend now is not to have two strong governments. And not to have two big governments too. Of course, that doesn't mean that the president must be a lame dog. So long as what he does is within the confines of the law, he is good to go. But you want to do things outside law? For instance, appointment of ministers. I think the discretion is in the president, of course, to appoint ministers. But in exercising that discretion, he could really rely on his fellow elected representatives in the National Assembly. He is elected to the office of the president. These are elected to the National Assembly. And for a nominee for the position of finance minister, to be looked into by the National Assembly is really not weakening the president. It's in fact strengthening the president. That his choice is in fact the choice of the people's representative too. Because the Minister of Finance, under our current constitutional arrangement, is not representing any constituency. If the President and the National Assembly agree that Mr. X is good to be a Minister of Finance, is as good as being elected by the...
Let's just clarify that no minister represents any constituency
no minister represents
under the present arrangement.
Under the present arrangement.
The Minister of Higher Education does not represent any...
No, it doesn't.
The Minister of Interior doesn't represent any...
No.
Would you like us to go back to the situation in the First Republic where to become a minister you have to be elected to Parliament first and foremost?
Well, sometimes I think of a hybrid situation. Cannot be completely back to the parliamentary system of government. But you can have a hybrid of the Republican and the parliamentary. And hybrid so that those offices where you need experts, finance, good economists, that's what you need there. Those type of ministries, you put in, bring people under the presidential system. Not presidential system, under the parliamentary system. So that even the people they represent in the National Assembly can vote them out when they misbehave or when they do things, they don't do the right things. If the president shuts his eyes on allegations of corruption against his Minister of Finance, he just pats him on the back, and things go on and they want. The electors will say, well, we are waiting for you. When you come, we'll deal with you. We have not elected you to go to the National Assembly and for the president to promote you to that very high office, and you indulge in corruption, dissipating the funds of this country, doing what you should not do. Yes. See, but then, Ghana, I think some of the ministers are members of the National Assembly.
Okay. So they have this hybrid system.
I think
you would like to see in the Gambia.
Yes. But
would you include that in a new constitution?
Well. I will throw that for a national debate.
Okay.
I'll throw that for a national debate.
Okay.
Yes.
You seem to suggest that, the president is so powerful, some of the powers could easily have been vested in the National Assembly. Why are our National Assembly members not clamoring for this empowerment as you are seeing it, apparently?
Well, so it is unfortunate sometimes we see some of these issues with a lens that is very political.
Ah.
Because it's seen by some as a challenge to President Barrow. It is President Barrow's powers that you want to whittle down. No. It is the presidency. And whoever is president will just be in the same position that President Barrow would have been if he agrees to what is being proposed. But people don't see it that way. They sit and know, oh, these people, this is what they want to do to the President Adama Barrow. No. It could be any president, and it should be any president.
How will that enrich our democracy, do you think?
Well, as I said, approval, well, let me say not approval, but then, agreeing to a particular party being appointed to some positions, National Assembly approving it, give a great deal of credibility. And in fact, what it does is getting, this other institution working with the president in really selecting the people, and it's part of it, and it will improve our democratic system. It will just not let one person decide that this is what I'm going to do, and he does so. Or one person with his cabal decide that this is what we want to do, and they do it. After all, the National Human Rights Commission.
What about it?
The members.
What about them?
When the nominees are taken to the National Assembly for approval, and I hear currently the anti-corruption, commission members, their names will be submitted to National Assembly for scrutiny and for approval. Well, if you could have it for such commissions, why can't you have it for ministers? Why can't you have it for ministers? But then it's just been seen as really trying to whittle down the power of the president, but it is not. It's really trying to control the executive.